Hey, it's Mack with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it's Monday. It's April the 7th. Really good trading day today. It didn't look like it was going to start out that way, but in the end, we just had this huge downtrend, and at this point, we're still working lower, although I believe that we're probably close to reversing down here. There's two ways to look at this. There's a bigger channel here. We had the break and several legs down. We've got a new low. But we also have this shorter term trend channel with a median line in it as well. And we got a little break here, but I guess we're going to have to look at maybe this being leg one and then this being leg two. And so, and I actually had I would look for prices to come to this lower line, and we haven't got there yet. And I'm guessing that's maybe why we haven't reversed yet. But we do have the break and a couple legs down to a new low. So I really thought we would have reversed by now, but we may be gunning for this lower line here. We'll just have to see what happens here. But there's no reason to go long yet. Notice how prices are, there's no rejection down here at all. Rejection looks something more like this. It looked like we were going to reject out right here. This was another interesting point because on the where is it? We've got the, we had the break here. We're moving to a new low. And we did get a new low there, so it was still a little bit iffy, but we didn't have a break of this channel. And that's why I still like this trade. But notice that we had a new low right here for both this channel and this channel. So, but by the time we'd actually, if you notice, if you found the channel, then you realize we weren't to the other side, and that didn't come to here, and then we counted, and then you see we reversed. So that would be the only thing that would keep you into that. We can talk more about that when we get there. I'm just trying to touch on some of the bigger pictures here, because a lot of times I get to talking about all this, then we run out of time, and I don't go back and explain some of this. Because I guarantee a lot of people will say, what made you think about going short there? Well, the issue is that the channel, the bottom is here. So that's the only thing making me think that we're not done to the downside quite yet because of this, we haven't reached the other side of this channel yet, and prices may want to get to the other side of that channel before we come out of there. They're really struggling. It looks like most of your buyers are, the buyers are losing steam. You can see how quick everything was falling previously, and now, we're just kind of hung in a little trading range here. And that's not a good thing to the downside because that means you're finding strong support, but you don't want to get long yet either because there's no rejection of prices. Prices haven't rocketed up out of here. They're just hung up in a little range, which is acceptance of prices. So, but let's talk about the trades. Let's back out here a little bit and go to the up here to the, and start at trade one. This was the first trade I saw. This is a second entry short. We did get a break. Notice that we got this, at that point we had a channel working down and we had a little bit of a double top. But at that point you really had to kind of go with the channel that we had here, the shorter term picture of the channel, and that's what I was looking at. We got a break. We look how short we came up here. So now you got to be concerned about this support right here. And then we had a little failed break lower, and then we run up. We get a little bit of rejection off the EMA, but it turns, and there's actually a failed second entry almost there, but there's some overlap in here. This was a doji. So you might have gotten trapped right there. If you did, then there's nothing you can do but exit here when it turns higher. So if you took that, but notice it didn't close on its low. We broke higher first, and we couldn't even get below that last close. This was a doji. Really, it's just a little pullback. And you may not even have a second entry here on your chart, but this kind of set up here just because there's support right across there, and we had a little failed break lower, and we came back and tested it. So I think in the big scheme of things, this is one leg up, pull back, second leg up. But in the scheme of things, it's the first leg. And the fact that we were outside the trend line and we didn't really get a good bearish bar, that's fairly bearish. So I guess what I'm getting at is I could see people getting trapped here. Um, so if you did, there's nothing you can do but reverse right there, because what's happening is we've got a bigger correction going on, and then we get that second leg, and then on a bigger picture at the second entry. And look at the difference in that bar. It broke higher. It still didn't go lower here, but it went lower than that close, and it closes on its very low. Um, I like that for a short. I went back and forth. I really meant to make this one green because notice there's no break of that little channel yet. And that was another reason about going short there. And this one I really meant to make green, and I forgot to go back and change it. This one's a little aggressive, but let me show you there's some other things. You got your two legs up for sure now. You've got a much more bearish bar. It closes on its low. It actually opens lower. So drop a limit order in there, and that was an easy trade. But even if you used a short, it would have worked because we never got above that signal bar. But there's also the fact that you had a double top here, and it's like so you got a high here, you tested it once, you came back, you tested it again. So you kind of tested that twice. So a more aggressive trader might go short right there. But again, I think it's a little bit aggressive, so that's the reason I've changed it back to green there. And then you kind of just go into this congestion area. But we're still looking for a low. You just need a good setup. And then when the second entry comes, I don't like it because now you got 1, 2, 3, 4 overlapping bars there. It doesn't look very nice. It almost looks like you're going to get a failure there, but then it comes back up and then it turns down, and then you get a second entry short kind of there after a failed second entry long. But look at all that overlap. You just got to kind of sit tight. And actually, there's not a failed second entry long. There could be, depending on how you look at it. But notice this new high, you're pulling back, and you get a first entry, and then you pull back. You get a second entry long there, but I don't think you can take that. It's too much congestion. You've already had a break here. You're kind of looking for a new high, but this is the bigger channel, and we don't have that low yet. So I think if you took that, would it have worked? I don't even know. 54 and a quarter. Yeah, it would have worked. So, I mean, if you really want to be aggressive, you might even take that one. I didn't like it. I'm going to go ahead and mark it aggressive because there is a failed second entry short there. But you're looking for a new low still. And at the very worst case, this is a trading range, but you still got this temporary downtrend in it, and we don't have any kind of retest at all yet. And so you're still looking for a low, for a short, and you got to be careful. The only way you could go low is down here at the very low with room to scalp out here before getting back to those highs right across there. And then we turn down again. So now you've got that failed second entry long right there. Again, it's aggressive because there's a lot of overlap. But I like this short right here because it tried it again and then failed. So now you got a little bit of a trap, and it still took it, but because it was a doji, it kind of backed up and gave people a chance to get in and then took off. So I really like that one because now you've tested that how many times? You got your double top, you tested it once, twice, 3 times, and that's a 4th time. And so I like that one for just a regular short. That was a nice little setup there, a nice little trap. And you can see it heads off, and where does it find? It kind of bounces temporarily right there, but it doesn't go very far. And so that's a failed second entry long. I drew it green because you're entering so close to this low, but it is a trap. Notice your new high here, and you pull back, and then you go. You can't hardly see this stuff. You got a new high right here that was higher than that swing high, so it counts as a new high. First entry long, pull back second entry, and you're going to get a lot of people right here guessing for a bottom. You're going to get all your aggressive traders, a lot of them are going to enter right there trying to guess a bottom, but we don't have a new low yet, so they're getting in a little bit too soon. And it's really not going to be your aggressive smart traders. It's going to be your aggressive amateurs is what it is. People that are always bottom fishing, and they think it's a range, and it is a range, but there's not a good reason that's why it's better off to wait on the second entry, which comes here, and it's a horrible setup, and it just traps everybody. So the smart trader's probably going to go short on that failed second entry long. Again, you got a new high, you pull back, first entry, pull back. It's a second entry long. And look how bearish that is. Anything that bearish is probably going to have another leg. And generally, after a trend line break, sometimes you get two legs down. And I haven't measured them, but I'm betting they're probably pretty much a measured leg. There's leg one, and there's leg two. Perfect two measured legs down. So you get another short opportunity there with just another attempt to go higher that fails. So you can go short below that bar. Again, you probably use a limit order there, let it, because it didn't close on its low. Let it break lower and drop it, and you could have got filled all the way back to those closes right across there. And it actually pulled back again, and 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 then turns down. So the breakout pullback really didn't come till here. But I don't like going long way down there. It would have worked, but I think it's a little risky. And plus, you're starting to get overlap right there. I like this one, and it was a quick, easy move. And then of course now you've got your break of this channel, a move to a new low, so you're probably going to rally out of there. But by this time, you should have noticed why we keep bouncing here and drawing that line and pulled it up. And maybe pulled it up to the top too. I actually had it right here, but I adjusted a little bit to right there after these bars formed. And so you had to be aware of that. But even if you didn't see that, look at this trading range and you find resistance right off of it again. And it might have taken you short, but there's not a very good setup there. You got this channel working up. You haven't had a break yet. That's really two legs back to the EMA. And I made this one green. Actually, I skipped this one. We'll come back to it. I made this one green because if you saw this bigger channel, you really don't need to be taking this trade. And but it is two legs back. It's the first break of this little tight channel with pretty bullish coming out of there. And you figure you're going to run back up and test that high, and it does just that, and it actually breaks out of the bigger channel. But let's come back to this one. This is very similar to a failed second entry short. It's generally what you see. Notice how prices shot up out of here to the EMA, barely bounced off, and then shot right on through and then pulled back. They actually went up, pulled back, and went up again, and then tried to pull back, and it bounces. That's like a little breakout. This is almost like congestion area here, and it's like a little breakout pullback long. But if you went to a little smaller chart, you'd see a failed second entry short there. And I hate to talk about that because people will get all confused, but just suffice it to say that it's not a failed second entry short on this chart. But if you went to a smaller one, it would be there. And, you know, close is often close enough in the right context. And, you know, there's many reasons to be thinking a reversal here. And there it comes, and just go long right there. And you don't know it's going to take off like that, but look what it does. But this is aggressive, so that's why it's green. This one's aggressive. It's a two-legged pullback, but we're coming off this again, and we aren't down here to the low side. But if you notice, there was some support right across there previously, and we bounced right there. So that was another reason to like that trade right there. I think the bigger picture is right down here, though. And we rock it on up. Pull back, you try to go higher again, you turn down. That's really a second entry short. First entry, pull back, that's a higher low, it's like a second entry. And this one, if you tried to use a limit order, anything more than where your stop would have gone, because it did open, close and open instantly right there. It was pretty fast, but it came back and would have filled your limit right where your stop was. So you still could have gotten in this trade even if you didn't get your trade in there and your stop order in there in time. And it takes it a minute, but it rockets on down. And this is what a reversal pattern looks like. Let me show you this. Notice how most of the way up here, each low and each high is higher. Actually, you get the first clue right here. because notice you weren't getting very good pullbacks at all, and then suddenly you get one that's lower than the previous two swings. That's your first clue. It runs to a new high, and then this one comes down and goes right through the EMA. It gets no resistance at all, comes underneath and starts getting resistance. Look at that move down. That's a first entry long, pull back, second entry long. It fails. Look at that bearish bar. It broke out the top first and broke. You could have put your stop right there. At the very least, when this one formed, put it right there, and this thing is off to the races. And then on a bigger picture, you get a failed second entry long. This is two legs down, but it's one leg and then a correction and then a second leg. So that's a two-legged move. And your second entry long down here off the bigger picture fails, and it's another big bearish bar. Again, I'd probably use a stop on that one, but you might consider a limit order. And it would have got filled back a few ticks, and boom, off it goes again. And I really didn't think you could enter this one. There's a possibility that might have kept you in this one. It's a first entry though, and I just think it's risky. It's not a very, it did break higher and then turn down, but there was a gap there, so it could have just been trying to fill that gap. So I didn't like that one. But there's another reason that you might have stayed with this one, and for that reason I'm gonna mark it green. But this was what I was trying to find a minute ago. Notice that we did have a new low after this break of this channel right here. But on the bigger channel, we got a break, and we didn't quite have a new low yet. So you figure we're going to try to make a new low for this channel, because this is a bigger picture. And we weren't there yet. We weren't even close at this point. So that might have, and everything's below the EMA. It's pulling back. We're swinging lower highs and lower lows, and it's fairly bearish. So you're probably going to test this again. But generally, you're going to get another leg up first. But it just went a little bit further, and then you get your correction. Right off those trend of those first few closes. This fits really well right here. You could have found it down here first and then drug it up. But it was pretty obvious right here. And that's a second entry short. Notice your new low, first entry, pull back, second entry. And it broke below that bar, closes. I would have used a limit order here, but it's still a second entry. You could have used a stop either way. And then notice what happens. First entry long, here's your new high, pull back, first entry long, pull back, and it broke higher again right there. Second entry. There's a lot of congestion, but it's because people were confused as to what was going on here. They probably didn't see this bigger channel, and I liked it for a short. And then you got hung up in this little, this is congestion. There's not a trend. Notice too that I got my little trend channel here, and you got your break right here, and you moved to a new high. That was another reason to like that trade. Here you couldn't really get a trend up because it was just a little trading range. It fails out the top, which is what you're looking for if you want to go short. This is a huge bar, so the bet, if you didn't use a stop up here, which was kind of risky, wait on the break lower here and then drop a limit order in here, and it would have filled you back the same place your stop would have up here, and then it's headed down again. And then you get a breakout pullback short out of this little range, and you're headed on lower. And then this is kind of like a little repeat right here. First entry, pullback, second entry, and boom. And this is technically just a little trading range. It's not really it is a first entry. This one broke lower, so it's hard to really call that a second entry counting off the low because you did get a new low. But we talked about that last week, that, close is close enough in a lot of cases. This is a very bearish bar. It is close to here. I almost wanted to make this green, but really from this high right here, it's like it's a failed. Notice you got these moves all the way down, first entry, pullback. So it is a second entry if you count from up here as well. So, and we're not down to this trend channel line, which we talked about earlier. And it's pulling back inside it, and then off you go. And, we showed the measured move there. And then you got another little channel working up here. You can see that. We had a little bit of a close outside here, And there is a second entry short right there, but you can't be going short right here, this close to the low of the day. That's not just a low, that's the low of the day. So you can't go short right there. Um, and if you're looking at this, we haven't touched that low yet. So that's another clue that we're probably still going lower. But you got to wait and see what happens here. I just didn't like that one. If you got trapped there, you know where prices are probably heading, to the other side of the channel. And we get up here, then we got those two legs like we talked about. Then the really smartest traders would have waited on that retest right there. But I thought we had a break right here already is the reason I like that one. Still worked, but this was the safer one, and look at it go now, boom. And then you get another two-legged pullback, and we still haven't touched that low like I talked about. And it's right off the midline, right off this of the bigger picture, right off this one. There's a new high here. Guess what? It's a failed second entry. It's not really a failed second entry long because it would have worked if you went long there, but it acts in a bigger downtrend. It didn't go very high after breaking higher, so it acts the same way. And down it's go. And then I didn't think you couldn't take any more shorts after that. It's just not worth it. And guess what? Now we've touched that lower line. And I had some previous support back over here somewhere from that line. I'm not going to go search it down. But that's the reason I had that line right in there. And look at us bouncing off of it. So now it really wouldn't surprise me to come out of here. We'll just have to see what happens. But this has been a very bearish day. And generally, days like this will often close on their very low. So I know some of you had a good day today because you sent me your results. I probably had one of the best days I've had in 2 or 3 weeks today, and I got started a little bit late today. So early, a lot of these I made them aggressive, but I'm trying to only show the easiest trades, and there's still a couple in here. But if you caught some of these over here, the runners in your trading runners, there were some easy runners that got you some big points, and that's how come I did so well today, to be honest. But what else? It seemed like there was something else. Oh, I know what I want to talk about. People still, I got at least 2 emails a day of people that are, how do you know when the reversal is done? You don't always know, but you know when you get a break that you can't really go short until you get a retest, unless it's a trading range day where sometimes, you got a channel coming down. You got a little trend within the channel, and the channel's taking precedence over the little short-term trend. But what it would be like is right here trying to go higher and then going on lower. So sometimes you'll see that, but most of the time, like here, you really didn't get a new high. The upper part of the channel took over, but after so many tries, it's going to fail and go lower. But let me just put this chart up on that somebody sent me. And the sad thing about it was, and I told them that, is they actually read the price action perfectly, but yet they still lost money. And I want to just put that chart up and show you. Notice that they got the channel right here, and you got the break right here. That's right here. And you see most of those, only this last little trap right here did I mark red. And they were smart, probably not going short in there. But once you saw that little trap, I felt it was worth taking, because you are looking for a new low. And so I didn't think it was necessarily a bad thing that they didn't, because I'd rather miss this trade than make a mistake. But really, you could have gotten in here anywhere, and you never made a new high. So any of those entries would have worked, to be honest. But by the time you saw this next couple here, it was obvious it was a trading range. But notice how you're losing steam right here. You can't make any new closes higher, and then it closes here, and it's starting to close lower. So that's telling you something. It's real. It's a real subtle hint. But look where they went short here, and they couldn't figure out why this was a bad trade to go short. Well, guess what? You just had your break of your channel, and there's two measured legs down to a new low. Then you got a fairly bullish move out of there. There's no rejection off that EMA. It's a first entry. And really, the entry, this is really your signal bar. So even though you got a more bearish bar here, if this was a really strong downtrend and prices were rocketing lower, I'd say, and you hadn't had a break yet, I'd say, yeah, you might take that trade. Because sure, you don't always get a second entry. But look at how big this move was with there's one leg down, a little two-legged correction, and the second leg down. And so you've already had your break, your new low, and look, you even drew your channel right there on the short term, and that's your first break. You're going to usually get a retest, so wait on your second entry, which guess what? Never comes, and that would have kept you on the right side, and you wouldn't have made that mistake. You would have realized that, hey, we got the break and the new low, and the move's over. So they read this properly, but they took a first in. They got the two legs to a new low. That's when you're going to see a correction most times. Sure, sometimes this might be one leg, but you're going to get a two-legged correction in there before you get your second leg in most cases. At the very least, you got to have a break of this little channel right here, which you do, and a retest, which that was right here. And notice the second entry never comes. So I hope that's clear. I mean, you read this beautifully, very nicely, but you missed the best trade and you take the worst trade. That's what happens is people want to see confirmation that the market's moving lower again, and by the time they see that, it's too late. The move is over, and then they trap people and move it the other way. So all they did was trap a lot of longs in here in order to bring it down, and then they trap a bunch of shorts in here in order to take it up. And you can't hesitate. When you see the setup, you have to take it, and you have to enter at the right place, or else you just have to watch it go without you. And they watched this one go without them, and they realized that, shoot, I made a mistake. And yeah, and they wrote right here, only looking for shorts since downtrend. Until you get your break and your two legs to a new low, then it's dangerous going short anymore unless you get a sure enough trap or great setup. And a first entry after a trend line break and a new low, especially with the three overlapping bars and a doji, is not a great setup. So you got it. That's what they want to do, is fool you, and they tricked you into getting short and then took off without you. So again, it's amazing how they read this. They read this perfectly and still lost money. So you have to not only read it properly, you got to understand what they're doing and what prices are doing. And so I hope that's clear to this couple that sent me this. And yeah, I mean, I'm real impressed with how well you read this. Look, drawing your short-term trend lines. You got your break. You tried to go up higher. You failed second entry short. And then another little attempt, which was a double trap. And boom, then off it goes. You got your two legs down to a new low. And so now you should have been getting short in here. And you really don't even probably want to get short here unless you're reading this properly. And so then you got your little channel here on the correction. There's your break. But guess what? You never got a second entry, so now you got to assume, hey, my channel's probably off those two swings, and you draw that, and then you know what's going on. But that's exactly how I would have been reading it at that point till here. Let me just show you. That's all the price action you would have had right there at that point. So you had to go with that. But once you got that swing and it kept going higher, then you'd probably want to use that swing, just like I did right here. Notice that. I had to use that second swing, and look, that kept you on the right side. And you actually, on your chart, you got a little second entry opportunity there. You got a high pullback first entry and then pull back, and it's not really a second entry, but you got a lower bar with a chance to get in. It's like a little correction. So you tried to correct twice almost, and so you got a little better setup than what I had there. Actually, no, I see that on my chart too. I missed that the first go around. It's, and it's right off the trend line on my chart. So You might have even wanted to enter right there, but we weren't above the EMA yet, and that was the real thing. And then you pull back and test the EMA, and that's generally, sometimes you will get a good setup with a little trap that's below the EMA. It doesn't have to be, but the best setups, the most obvious ones, are going to get through that EMA and then pull back and test it and go higher. So hopefully that's clear, but I'm going to wrap it up. We got about 30 minutes going here, but just let me look at this chart one more time. This is a first entry. It's not even a good setup. It's your first break of your little short term. And I mean, that's short term because it's only like 3 or 4 bars. So you got to get a break, and you're generally going to get 2 legs. Even if they fail right here, a good second entry might have come right here, or this bar might have been real bearish and even further down here, because usually your second entries are not as good as your first entries, but that's not written in stone, because sometimes you'll get a great second entry that's a whole lot better entry than your first entry, but it's because they trap people really is what creates it. That's what causes it to be such a good entry. So not much else you can say about that except that you read it perfectly, and I'm really impressed with the way you read this chart. But you just got to think a little bit. You got to think a little bit differently as far as how you're going to enter there. And I don't think this channel is necessarily right here. If you'd have drawn your really short term, it would have come right across there, and that would have been your first break. You didn't quite get that one right. Notice how there's nothing even touching this line right here. It's all touching this one. So if you go, I'm sorry, I've got that off the screen, but notice how this line, there's no price action touching it at all. If anything, it's a little tighter. You got a few touches here, but I don't think that's right, and that's this move right here on my chart. And originally I had a tighter one too. Let me just show you what, it's right off those closes right down through there. So there is another shorter term one right down through there like so. And you can see how that's touching on both sides, how it turned down right there each time. And that would have given you another reason to take this short right here. But what I did was, once I saw all this, I drew this line right here and I drug it up. And I'm thinking, oh, okay, we got a bigger channel here. This is just a little temporary one. And so that's the only thing that I don't like about this chart, about your channels. I think you got them all. And this one's not necessarily that far off because it still got you to the same place. This was the first break of this little channel, but you didn't wait on the new high. And if you'd have waited on the new high, notice how you never had to trigger it. Shoot, I'm back over there looking on my other screen. I'm sorry. This is close enough that it still would have got you to the same place, because there's your first break of this channel, and that's a first entry in the first break, and you got the first break of this little thing. So you got to wait on the little retest, and notice how you never got your trigger for your second entry, and then it's racing higher, and you know not to fool with it then. So you read it fairly well, really well actually, and you just didn't act properly. So there's this is a multi-step this is a multi-step process, and you got to learn them all. And look, now that we touched down here, look how we're going higher. We still got to get back outside of this, but I like this thing to reverse now probably, or at least get a correction, temporary correction. But I just want to make it real clear that this process is not easy. It's most of this stuff I'm processing subconsciously because I've been doing it a long time, and there's other people that have been doing it a long time that are starting to do the same thing. But I had several long emails with a guy that I've talked to back and forth, and he asked me, he says, well, you say you got to wait on, what he's having a hard time is the very same thing, understanding when there's been a reversal. That's what a reversal looks like. Look how it raced above that EMA, and you've had your break of this little channel, and now this reversed and went right on through the EMA, making higher highs than all of these. No, we couldn't even get near that, above that before. Now you've rocked it right on past it in one move. So that's telling you something. Where else? I think it was right here the other day. He was asking about this chart, and he couldn't figure out why he couldn't go short right in here. The trend line was like right up through there. And yeah, you got a break here and a big move up. This was news driven though, and he couldn't figure out why I didn't want to go short here, but I did up here, and it's quite a bit of difference. First of all, this is congestion, and it's all still inside that channel. You don't want to be going short right in there, and then you get a little trap right here, and then it's okay to probably go short. But this is totally different. Notice how there's nothing. Notice how there's no rejection there. The safe trade was right here. I don't think I marked this as a short. I think I marked this as the first short. Aggressive trader might go short there, but I think this was the first one I marked short. But he wanted to know why I was going long down here and not short right here. And I tried to explain to him it's because of all this overlap. There's no reason to go short yet. I mean, you got to look at all that overlap. And if you draw the lines, it makes it easier to see. This is just a little trading range. Yep. And you can see, and then you got a little failed break higher. So aggressive trader's probably going to go short right there on that little second entry. And then this is like a little breakout pull back short. And you've had all your stuff in place now. And plus, the main reason I like this one is because it's a trap. Look at that trend line, first of all. And you got a new high first entry, pull back second entry. There's a trap. It closes on its low. It's close to this low, but really your low is down here now. And it's a trap. And so I liked it to go. Actually, on your way up, you would have been using these closes. I'm sorry. So it's like a little, those were your last closes, and notice we kind of broke below that, pulled back. It's like a little breakout, pull back short. But the main thing, you got your trend line off those first two swings, and that's the confirmation of it. Plus, it's a failed second entry long. Just go short there. And so that's why I like that trade. And notice how that looks totally, there's no reversal pattern here yet that looks like what I was just talking about over here. That's what a reversal pattern looks like. Notice how we went right through that EMA and rocketed. We went right through the midline and pulled back, tested, and then went higher again. That's what reversals look like. And there were other clues that was coming. We couldn't hardly go short yet. We were trying to get to this other line, and then we touched it. We came back and tested it one more time, and then boom. So who knows? We may rock it straight on out of here and go straight up the rest of the day. Who knows? But generally, on a day this bearish, we'll get a nice correction, and then they'll might even sell it off one more time to come back and test that low. We'll just have to see. So I hope all that was helpful. This is almost 40 minutes. These things get so long sometimes, and I'm going to try to upload it. I'm not going to try to cut one thing out of it because I think it's all important stuff. So, but I'm going to wrap it up. This is Mack with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.